I wasn't supposed to meet anyone that day. Valentine's Day has always felt like one of those holidays you either enjoy fully or tolerate quietly. When you're in a relationship, it's fine overhyped, sure, but manageable. When you're single, it can feel like the world is going out of its way to remind you of that fact. That year, I was very single, not heartbroken, not freshly dumped, just alone and bored, and restless in the specific way you get when you don't want company, but also don't want to be trapped inside your own head. I remember standing in my apartment, keys in hand, thinking about where I could go that wouldn't make me feel worse. Bars were out too loud, too many couples pretending they weren't comparing themselves to other couples. Restaurants were worse. I didn't want to sit near someone proposing or watch people force romance because the calendar told them to. I almost stayed home. Instead, I went to Starbucks. It felt neutral, safe, public without being social. I could sit there with my laptop, headphones on, and not interact with anyone. Just exist somewhere that wasn't my apartment. The place was packed, like it always is on Valentine's Day. Couples sat close together, legs touching, hands wrapped around warm cups. Some of them looked genuinely happy. Others looked like they were trying very hard to be. I found a small table against the wall, opened my laptop, and put my headphones on. I was working on some code, focusing just enough to keep my thoughts quiet. That's when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I startled harder than I should have. I was deep enough in my own world that the interruption felt intrusive. I turned around, already halfway annoyed, and then I saw her. She was standing there with this apologetic smile, like she was bracing for me to be irritated. She was cute, but not in an obvious attention-grabbing way. More like the kind of cute you notice slowly. Dark hair pulled back, sharp eyes, comfortable in her own skin. She said, "Sorry to interrupt, but I really like your tattoos." That was it. No flirting, no awkward pickup line, just curiosity. I took my headphones off completely and laughed a little, telling her thanks. She asked what they meant. I told her. She showed me hers, small, delicate, intentional. The kind of tattoos you don't get on impulse. Her friend stood nearby, checking her phone, clearly ready to leave. We talked for maybe 10 minutes, but it felt longer. The conversation didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like either of us was trying to impress the other. Eventually, her friend said they had to go. I assumed that was the end of it. Just a nice random moment I think about once or twice and then forget. Instead, she hesitated, then handed me her phone. "Put your number in," she said, "and call me tonight. Not text, call." That detail stuck with me. So I did. When she answered, her voice sounded different than it had in the coffee shop. Softer, more tired. There was a faint beeping sound in the background, rhythmic and unfamiliar. She told me she was in the hospital. My stomach dropped immediately. I assumed something terrible had just happened. But she explained calmly that she had cystic fibrosis and that hospital stays were just part of her life. She said it like someone saying they had seasonal allergies. She also told me she usually waited to tell people about it until she knew them a little better. I didn't really know how to respond, so I listened. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She wasn't dramatic about it. She just explained. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and Googled cystic fibrosis. I read medical articles, survival rates, lung capacity statistics, average life expectancy. I learned just enough to scare myself, but not enough to understand what living with it actually meant. The next day, we texted constantly. She complained about hospital food, how it all tasted the same, no matter what it was supposed to be. She joked about how often she'd been admitted, how the nurses knew her by name. There was something about how casually she talked about it that unsettled me, like this was just normal life for her. After work, on impulse, I picked up food from a place she mentioned liking and drove to the hospital. I didn't tell her I was coming. I didn't stop to overthink it. When I walked into her room, she looked genuinely surprised. Then she smiled, and that smile did something to me. We ate together. We talked for hours about her childhood, about my job, about nothing important and everything important. The machines hummed quietly around us, but after a while, I barely noticed them. At some point, she told me something that stuck with me. She said that every time she started seeing someone, eventually she'd end up hospitalized for 2 or 3 weeks. And once that happened, the guy would slowly lose interest. Less text, less effort, eventually excuses, then silence. None of them ever came to see her. She didn't say it angrily. She didn't cry. She said it like a pattern she'd accepted. I went back the next day, and the next. For 3 weeks straight, after work, I went to the hospital. Same chair, same room, same routine. I learned which nurses she liked and which ones annoyed her. I met her brother. I met her friends. I could tell they were surprised I kept showing up. It never felt like I was doing something heroic. It never felt like a burden. It just felt like where I wanted to be. When she finally got discharged, we kept seeing each other. We dated for about 3 months. Those 3 months were intense in a way that's hard to explain unless you've lived it. There was no pretending time was unlimited. No assumption that we'll deal with that later. Everything mattered. I learned what CF actually meant not from Google, but from watching someone live with it. The medications, the breathing treatments, the exhaustion that hit her out of nowhere. The way she planned her life around hospital stays like other people plan vacations. She lived like every day counted, because for her, it genuinely did. She had about 60% lung capacity. She was also very small for Elevin, which made the idea of a lung transplant more complicated. Finding lungs that were both a match and physically small enough wasn't easy. I thought about the future more than once. About hospitals, about loss, about whether I was strong enough for something like this. And then I stopped, because I was happy. Happier than I'd been in a long time. One night, she was sleeping over at my place. It was quiet, dark, the kind of calm you don't realize you appreciate until it's broken. I woke up to her coughing. Not normal coughing. Deep, violent coughing that sounded painful in a way I wasn't prepared for. I sat up immediately and started patting her back, trying to help her breathe. When it finally stopped, she lay there staring at the ceiling. Then she said, very calmly, "We have to stop this." I asked her why, even though I already knew the answer was going to hurt. She said she didn't know how long she was going to live. She didn't know if she'd ever get new lungs. I told her I understood. I told her I knew what I was getting into. I told her I wasn't afraid. She told me she didn't let people get close because she was going to die and leave them behind, and she didn't want anyone to miss her. She said most guys left once she got stuck in the hospital, but she knew I wouldn't. And that's not fair to you. No matter what I said, I couldn't change her mind. She packed her things quietly, efficiently, like someone who had practiced leaving before. Before she walked out, she asked me to forget about her. And just like that, she was gone. The relationship was short, but it stayed with me longer than relationships that lasted years. I dated other women. I lived my life. But there was always a quiet "what if" in the back of my mind. Eventually, I met my current girlfriend. One day, I got a text from my ex. She had gotten new lungs. She apologized. She knew I was in a relationship and didn't expect a response. My girlfriend thought I'd go back. She told me she'd understand if I did. I never even considered replying. I was happy. I later heard my ex met someone else. They've been together almost a year. I hope she stays happy. I hope the lungs hold. I hope she gets the long life she never let herself imagine. Some people come into your life briefly and leave a permanent mark. They're not meant to stay. And sometimes, loving someone means accepting that timing, not love, is what decides everything.